And we are live. Hello and welcome everyone to this session on master projects. One of the most confusing topics, I would say, in project and project server. A lot of conflicting opinions. We should use them, we should not use them. As a consultant myself, I have had all these arguments as to whether they should be used or not. So I'm very interested to hear Gord Schmidt from Agora Consulting Partners talk about this. I was reading his profile. God is actually a mathematician. So I'm pretty sure he will bring some maths into this and help us understand how master projects work. So with that, God, take it away.
Oh, thanks so much. Welcome everyone to the Project Virtual Conference 2015. I'll be covering mastering master projects. If this isn't the session you're looking for, stay anyway and enjoy, or come back and enjoy a recording of it later. My name is Gord Schmidt, and this is about the 7 p.m. UTC time for the virtual conference. Quick thank you to the sponsors of the conference, making it all happen, and a lot of volunteer work from our organizers as well. We all really appreciate the efforts they've gone through to bring this out to the community. So I am based in Toronto, so hello from Toronto. My name is Gord Schmidt. I wear a number of different hats. I am the Microsoft Project User Group Toronto Chapter President. I am a virtual technology specialist for Microsoft Canada for Microsoft Project Server and Project Online. I am a consultant for Agora Consulting Partners, and that's an organization for which I do a lot of implementations of Project Online and Project Server for various project management offices. And along with that, we have produced a number of applications for Project Online, and I've been working on architecting those. So we have things like a reminders app that adds additional reminder functionality to Project Online. We have Port 365, which enables you to do reporting, including SQL Server reporting services, reports from Project Online, and several others. I have provided a URL to LinkedIn to find me. I searched on Gord Schmidt the other day. There are 54 of us. So not only are we Microsoft Project specialists, we also own a gas station and do car repairs. That's the Brotherhood of Gord Schmidts, working for you. So what are we going to cover today in the hour we have? We're going to talk about master projects, what they are, when I think they should be used, how to set them up, special considerations for master projects. Now this first section I will cover the considerations that are relevant in both the file-based scenario or Project Online or Project Server. And then I'll end with considerations that are really only specific to Project Online or Project Server. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some questions and answers. If not, I'll be looking at the chat. If we run out of time, I'll be looking at the chat and trying to answer questions after the hour, if that's possible. And again, feel free to reach out to me afterwards with questions related to this or anything else that you can think of. So, what are master projects? Think of master projects as a collection of other projects. And you can show sort of this hierarchy amongst these related projects. So we have 3 small projects over on the right, and they are inserted into the master project on the left. Now, when I say inserted, it's really only a link that's inserted. The contents of these 3 schedules on the right are not actually contained in the master project. They are rather referenced by the master project. And this will come up several times throughout this session. You'll see how that has implications to how things behave in the master project world. So when can you use master projects, or when might you want to consider using master projects? Well, if you're doing a large program, and this is probably the most common scenario, and it's broken up into bite-sized pieces for ease of management. That's one sort of scenario. Perhaps you have separate budgets for these pieces, or different stakeholders, or different project managers. Maybe you want there to be different levels of security where the people who are managing the sub-projects don't necessarily have rights to see the other sub-projects. Maybe you want to manage many cross-project dependencies, or maybe you're trying to do critical path analysis across multiple projects. All these scenarios, I would say, could lead to you using, or at least investigating, master projects. It's probably key to contemplate that just because it's there doesn't mean you should use it, but please be aware of what it can do and what functionality it can bring to you. The next points about when to use master projects are sort of different depending on whether you're using files, MPP files, or using Project Online or Project Server. Trying to do resource management. When you're using multiple MPP files, you can set up one file to be your resource pool. And doing this sort of allows you to do cross-project resource management in a file-based system that it's very hard to do without using master projects. In Project Online and Project Server, that's not really the case, as it already provides you an enterprise resource pool and many different functions and views to allow you to see who's working on what project. So if you're doing a file-based system, you could use master projects simply to get resource management views across projects. Also, when you're using project files, you can take advantage of Microsoft Project's built-in reporting capabilities across all the projects that are in your master project. Whereas in Project Online or Project Server, you do have all of the functionality there that sort of can look at multiple projects at once. Think of the Project Center or the Resource Center or any server level reporting that you have. And the final one is specific to Project Online or Project Server. You can take advantage of the SharePoint sites by building out each sub-project as a sub-site of the master project's master project site. And then you have the ability to sort of roll up information into a parent site. You sort of can take advantage of that hierarchy defined within SharePoint. So how do we set up a master project? I have a bunch of slides here. I'm going to go through them very quickly, and then I'll do a quick demo. If you wish to go back and review the instructions, maybe you can just pause the recording later. So, first step, create the master project. You should really do this first, particularly if you're in Project Online or Project Server, because you want to establish the SharePoint hierarchy. You don't need to create any tasks or resources. You just need to get that project created. So create it, save it in the server environment or online environment, publish it. Make sure you create a project site for that master project. Second step, go and create the project, a project or multiple projects that will be the sub-project, and save them. And if you're in the server environment, and that's what all the italics represents, the server environment, when you publish, make sure that you provision the site as a sub-site of another project. You know, if the window that comes up that prompts you, and then you can select the master project under which you want to be a sub-project of, and select that project, and that will create the SharePoint site underneath the master project's SharePoint site. Close the project that will be the sub-project, check it in, make sure you have that master project open or reopen it, and in the ribbon select Insert Sub-Project. And as you're inserting that sub-project, be sure that the Link to Project option is selected. That link is what makes sure that the original project exists and is only referenced as a link within the master project. If you deselect this option, it will instead just copy every task and sort of insert every task inside, but the connection between the two files is not there. And finally, then save and publish that master project. And then congratulations, you've created a master project with a sub-project, and you can go on to using it. Now let's do a quick demo for you. I'm just going to do this in the file-based system for considerations of time. Want to make sure we have enough time for questions at the end. So here you can see I've started a new project. We're still called Project 1. I haven't saved anything yet. I have a couple tasks just because I could. I'm going to save this, and I will save this out to the file system. Put it in the demo, and that's fine. And we will call this, we will call it virtual master. And save. And now we'll create a new project. Subtask, just so we can distinguish it. Again, we'll save as a file just for speed here. We'll close that off. Now I'm back at the virtual master. I'm going to insert that sub-project. And there's that sub-project. Here's that link I'm referring to. I want to insert this sub-project as a link to the project. It's very important. And there we go. Now you can tell this is a sub-project because of the project icon that gets displayed in the indicator column. There are other indicators as well. For example, if I double-click on this, it brings up what is similar to the task information window, but it's actually the inserted project information, where I can see a little bit of information about the inserted project. There we go. And if I expand this, I can see the subtasks for that project that I just created. Let's go back to the deck and talk about some of the considerations that we have when we're using master projects. So I'm going to cover about 6 different items that are relevant for both file-based and project online or project server-based implementations with master projects. The first one will be how resourcing works in this environment. Then we'll talk a bit about baselines and how they function. Budgets is another key one, how budgets are represented with sub-projects. We'll talk about a little bit about some of the fields and views that are specific to master projects or are there for your use, or maybe some custom field ideas that you could leverage as well. We'll talk about cross-project dependencies. So that's dependencies between projects. And then finally, critical path analysis in a master project scenario. So first is resourcing. So, and this is very true for file-based, but you can see this is also important for project online. Project resources are specific to the project. So if I have a particular resource that's assigned to a project, a sub-project, those resources can only be assigned to tasks for that sub-project. I can't go and assign, because let's say I'm assigned to sub-project 1 as a team member, I can't be assigned to tasks on sub-project 2 or in the master project unless I'm specifically added to those project teams. So resourcing is very specific to the project in terms of your project team. Now, what does this mean? If I, as a resource, am assigned to 2 or 3 different sub-projects, when I look at, let's say, the resource sheet of the master project, I can see duplicated resources if I'm file-based. For example, if project manager has called me Gord Schmidt, and of sub-project 1 and sub-project 2, the project manager has referred to me just as Gord, I'm going to be listed twice in the resource sheet. Might be a little confusing for reports. One of the things you can do is sort of maybe there's an email address or some identifier that can be used to sort of allow you to group and put those similar resources together. Or hopefully you can go to the project managers and get the names in a standard way. A centralized resource pool definitely helps alleviate this problem a little bit. and Project Online, Project Server, they already have that unique. This is already defined by the enterprise resource pool. So what about baselines? Baselines are interesting because, as you recall, the sub-projects are only links within the master project. If I open up a sub-project as a project manager, I can baseline that sub-project and it works just as if it was a normal project. I can save to baseline 0, 1 through 10. I can clear baselines, whatever the permission model of my environment allows. The behavior does not change. But within the master project, the way a PM can take a baseline, it's a little bit different. There's essentially two possibilities. One, when the project manager takes the baseline of the master project, it will only take a baseline of the tasks that are within the master project. Each sub-project will just be treated as a summary task. It will take a baseline for that summary task, but project will not automatically take a baseline for the tasks within the sub-projects. The second option is the master project manager wants to take a baseline across the entire set of projects. And so they can do that when they take the baseline. They can essentially force the capture of that information, but it is an extra step and you have to be aware of it. So what exactly does that look like? I'll cover that off here. Essentially, when you take that baseline, if you wish to take a baseline of all the sub-projects, you must select the baseline for the selected tasks, have all the tasks in your project selected. You can have these checked off. These are not as relevant. The important piece is for selected tasks, but before you take the baseline, select everything. By doing this, it will take a baseline in the sub-project files as well. Now, if project managers have taken baselines in those sub-projects, you will overwrite them. It's also important that if you do this, you're opening up those projects for editing. You need to have rights to do so. If one in a server environment is checked out to another project manager, you will not be able to take the baseline for that project while it's checked out, or while you don't have it checked out yourself. All right. Next, I wanted to mention budgets. So if you're not familiar, budgets are a special variation of cost resources. Budget resources can only be signed to the top level task of a project. So task 0 is what I'm referring to there. You can have multiple budget resources assigned to each project task. Maybe you have one for a labor budget versus hardware versus software, consulting, training, operational budget, whatever variations they are. Budget resources do, in general, work in a master project environment. The one caveat being that you cannot assign a budget resource to a sub-project task, even though it's the project level task. You can't do that in a master project view. You can set each of these budget resources in a sub-project view, assign them to the top level task, and then you can modify the budgets, the amounts, take baselines of them. All that functionality is available to you in the master project view, but you must first add the budget resources to the sub-projects and assign them to the project level task in order for budget resources to be fully there and available to you in a master project. And what about some of these unique fields and views? So one of the most useful fields that's built in when you're dealing with master projects is there's a field called project. And you can add that to, let's say, your Gantt chart or your resource sheet. And it shows you where either the task or the resource originates from, which sub-project. This is very useful when you start filtering or grouping or sorting within your Gantt chart the list of tasks, and you're maybe don't have the work breakdown structure to rely on to let you know which project the task is stemming from. So this field is very useful. It's built in. Obviously, when you're using it just with a single project open, you would never add this field because it's just your project name repeated for every single task. But when you're dealing with a master project, it can help you identify the where that project is coming from. Similarly, there's two fields for identification of records. There's an ID column, an ID field, as well as a unique ID field. Again, very useful for organizing your data and keeping track of where things are coming from and what order they were from. Again, especially important if you like filtering or grouping or sorting your data within your project. One thing we tell our customers or clients is if you're going to use master projects, best to set up a custom field within Project Server or Project Online, if that's what you're doing, to identify maybe the program that that master project is for. And then the master project and the sub-projects can all be identified by that one program. Essentially, maybe it's a drop-down list where it helps a lot when you're doing reporting to group all of those together, either by filtering out other things or just making sure that those projects, the sub-projects, stay together. If it's just done alphabetically and their names aren't similar, they can be spread throughout views or reports. You want something that pulls them together uniquely for you. At the bottom, I included a reference to an MPUG article that actually develops a custom field using formulas to give you task numbering that incorporates the project name. So I've seen a lot of organizations that spend a lot of time getting their project number or their task numbering well defined and useful, and in a master project, extending it to include the project name or a code for each project really can help with the unique identification of tasks. So I encourage you to go take a look at that article if this is something that might be interesting or useful to your organization. The next two items I'm going to talk about are built-in fields. So there is a project type field available, and it's you can show up in the, let's say, the project center, and in general it will tell you the type of project. So you know, is this an enterprise project or a SharePoint task list? It can identify master and sub projects. So this can be useful for you in that it can help when you're looking at the project center to understand which is the master, which is the sub project, particularly if they're similarly named. It can help users determine. Obviously, if you're doing reporting, this kind of information is useful to help you build out the hierarchy in your reports. And then finally, there is a field called external task. This is useful in that if you create tasks that are dependencies. If you create dependencies on tasks between tasks that are in different projects, it essentially, one of the things you can do is allow those tasks to show up sort of as what you might consider a ghost task. And this field identifies those for you as to which ones are external tasks. This is used in the Gantt chart by Microsoft Project. They're displayed differently. They'll show up in a light gray, so you can recognize that task. If you're looking at a sub-project, that external task doesn't actually exist in your project. It's just there to help you understand the dependency your task may have on a task in another project. Next thing I want to highlight is exactly that, the cross-project dependencies. And this is where people run into a lot of trouble with master projects. I worked with a customer a couple years ago where they were dealing with master projects, but the sub-project managers essentially frequently would open up just their sub-project and create dependencies on other projects and save their sub-project. Well, in general, that sounds like it is a safe thing to do. You're creating the dependencies for your tasks on other tasks as may exist in reality. You're modeling those dependencies. So that part of the behavior is great. The problem that arises is that when you're dealing with one single sub-project, it sort of queues up the other Microsoft project queues up the other half of that dependency for the next time that project is edited. And if that's not immediate, there can be quite a lag between the two. And things can happen in that lag that change the nature of the dependency. So for example, I might create a dependency on a task, and maybe that project manager deletes the task before the dependency is created, or maybe they rename it or shift it around in their schedule. So the best practice is to have both projects open for editing when you create or update or delete a cross-project dependency. So either have the program manager do it, or if you have the permissions, have both your sub-project and the other sub-project open when you create those dependencies. It's very easy to create circular references if you're not actively managing the cross-project dependencies within all of your schedules. It's best to work as a team when building out these cross-project dependencies. As I said, within the sub-projects, if I'm a sub-project manager and I just have my sub-project open, dependencies can appear with these what are sometimes referred to as ghost tasks. And within your options, if you go into options at linking in recent versions of Microsoft Project, predecessors, show external predecessors. This is what causes these ghost tasks to appear. Obviously, clearing these icons or clearing these checkboxes rather will eliminate those tasks from appearing within your Gantt chart. These tasks can be very useful because it obviously shows you those dependencies in a graphical manner. You can see a bit about the tasks that you're dependent on. A little bit. It will show the name of the task, the duration of the task, start and finish date. You won't see any assignment information, so you won't know who's working on that task you're dependent on or how much work's involved, but you do see some basic information about it. All right. And then this other checkbox here is also very key. Show links between projects, dialog box on open. If there are changes, sorry, let me start again. If you're opening up your sub-project and there have been changes made to dependencies involving tasks on your project, with this checkbox selected, you will get a dialog box that will appear asking you to sort of review and accept these changes. I highly recommend you keep this checkbox on and do not automatically accept new external data, but rather review it as it comes. If you automatically accept it, you're not aware of the changes that have been made. And as a project manager, you want to be aware of the changes. You want to see new dependencies or changes to dependencies between your project tasks and other project tasks. Very, very important. Again, best to work as a collaborative team of project managers. Don't just rely on the technology. Work together with your cross-project dependencies. Next, the critical path. So critical path works as expected if you make some adjustments, or if you make an adjustment. So there is one option. It's under project options under the schedule tab here. And it's right here. Inserted projects are calculated like summary tasks. And essentially this will, this checkbox changes slightly, well, significantly, I guess, how Microsoft Project treats sub-projects when calculating the critical path. In one case, it sort of ignores the sub-projects and just treats the inserted projects as if they were summary tasks as part of the critical path, and the sub-project is itself sort of ignored. And the other case, it will, if you flip that toggle, if you flip that checkbox, it will instead treat the entire schedule as if it's all tasks within one project, and it will show you the critical path throughout the entire program of projects. So this is, in general, the way you'd want to look at it as a program manager, trying to analyze the critical path within your entire program across all those sub-projects. So this is a very useful tool for identifying critical elements. Obviously, if you look at each project in isolation, its critical path is sort of important to its project manager, but it's really the program and the program delivery that you're interested in. You want to see the critical path across that entire program. So I'm going to flip back here, kind of rush through a little bit of that content. I want to show you some of these items just as part of a demo here. Flip over to, I have here team training program, and I've inserted 5 sub-projects: skills gap analysis, strategic content reuse, custom content development, and 2 training phases. I have 2 tasks here that are at their master project level. So if I'm the master project manager, I created these tasks, or this task and this milestone. I assigned Ryan to my team and assigned him to this task, right? I'm the one doing this. I inserted these 5 sub-projects. Now, maybe some other project managers created these, and I've just inserted them into my program. So what do we talk about first? Resourcing. Let's go and take a quick look at the resource sheet. So here you can see a whole set of resources that are available in the, that are part of the master project or the sub-projects. You can see I've inserted this project field. So now I can see which resources are coming from which projects. You can see here Timothy is in my list twice, because he's both on training phase 1 project and training phase 2 project. Same thing with Samantha Smith. So looking at my resource sheet, they show up twice, but in looking at, by adding this project field, it really helps me distinguish, okay, why are they showing up twice? Do I have 2 people with very similar names? Well, yes, because they're actually the same person on 2 separate projects. So let's flip back to the Gantt chart here. And I want to draw your attention to baselining. So right now I haven't set a baseline within this project. And if I expand the sub-projects, here, let me do it this way. I can see that there's no baseline across any of the projects. So first thing I'll do is the standard way you might set a baseline. Go to the project ribbon, set baseline. I'll set it for the entire project, baseline 0. And you can see the fields that have been baselined, or rather the tasks that have been baselined by looking at the baseline start field. I can see that only the tasks that are actually in the extreme training program had been baselined. So there's the first one, the project management task. This skills gap analysis task, you remember this is a single task that's inserted into my master project to represent the entire skilled gap analysis project. So you can see that all the tasks within that project they're not baselined. If I were to open up this project as a sub-project only, it would have no baselines, including on the project level as well. If I looked at task 0 in the skills gap analysis project, it would not be baselined. This baseline only exists in the master. And similarly, I can see the tasks that represent those other sub-projects are baselined all the way down to, here's that milestone. That's part of the program. It's baselined. Now, let's say that's not actually what I intended. I wanted to get a baseline of the entire project at this state. I'm going to select every task, make sure there are no filters on. I just click up in the top left corner to select all tasks, Now I go back to save baseline, or sorry, set baseline, set baseline. Instead of for entire project, I'm going to say for all selected tasks. I say okay. And now I've taken a baseline as you would sort of expect in a project environment. All of them are taken, whether they are a sub-project or part of the master. When I save this, it's going to update each sub-project with these baselines as well. So if a project manager of a sub-project opens up, let's say, the skills gap analysis after I save this, they will see that this baseline has been taken. So what about budgets? Notice here that we do have budget amounts. And actually, let me just filter out everything. Well, no, let's not do it that way. We'll do it this way. Here are the budget amounts for the various sub-projects. If you notice here, they don't add up to the total budget cost. So why is that? That's because the master project itself, the Extreme Training Program, has a budget too. And so this total amount shown here is actually the sum of the budget of the sub-projects plus the budget of the master project, giving me a grand total of $142,000. So that's very key. It looks like it's not adding up, but in fact, under the covers it is. And if we go and look at maybe a resource usage sheet, I can see here that, let's maybe filter on budget resources. There we go. Right, here's the Extreme Training Program. That's our master project. It has a budget of $60,000. And so that's why we're seeing that extra amount. And you can see over here that we have, maybe budgets broken down by month across the various sub-projects. Maybe let's make this a little bit nicer. Collapse that down. Now I can see for the various budgets, I can see how they time phase out, right? Let's go back to the Gantt chart. So here, if I was looking at, actually, let's just open everything up. If I was looking at this entire project and maybe I was doing some filtering to say, well, show me everything that's, will be a good example here. Show me everything that's critical. Maybe a bad example that it's so limited right now. We'll come back to that in a minute. If I, let's say, sort these tasks by start date, sorry, bad example. Actually, forget the example. What I'm trying to get to is there are fields that are going to allow me to identify where the tasks are coming from. And that project field, as you remember, is 1. And here it is, it's showing the different values. So I know that this identify risks is coming from the skills gap analysis project. Notice that the skills gap analysis project task itself, the sub-project task, the project it belongs to is the Extreme Training Program. So the sub-project tasks, the inserted tasks, show up as part of the master project. Little confusing for some people. They expect it, they expect this to say skills gap analysis, but that's, again, not how this works. Each sub-project is getting created sort of as a summary task within the master project. And so that's why it shows up in that manner. Let's close this all down for a minute. And yes, we can make some saves. We'll save everything. And I'm going to reopen just one of the sub-projects. Right down here, this document results task, it has a dependency, or rather it is a predecessor for this identify overlap task. You notice in the Gantt chart, it appears as light gray. This identifies that it's actually a cross-project dependency, and this is an external task. If I were to double click on this, I can see that which project it's on. It's from the strategic content reuse planning project, and that's the path to that, pardon me, to that particular project. Again, if I bring up the project field, I can see that a little bit longer because it's file-based. I can see that project that it's referencing. If this was server-based, you would see a few characters followed by the project name that's on the server. So it doesn't give you the entire. There's no path information in a Project Online or a Microsoft Project Server implementation. But you can see that task, and if you look at the information about this task, oops, sorry, I double-clicked on it. It opened up the sub-project for me, which just is useful. Here I can see within this project I have two external tasks, including this document results, which was in that sub-project I was just looking at on the task in the strategic content reuse planning. And if I go back, I can see it the other way. So this is how, as I'm managing a sub-project, I can sort of see where my dependencies lie, both things that are dependent on me and my tasks, and conversely, the tasks I am dependent on, or my project team and my tasks in my project are dependent. So let's go back to that master project. We won't bother saving any of the changes here. So what about that critical path? What exactly does that look like in this scenario? I'm going to come up and look at what tasks are marked critical in this view. Now look, I just said show me critical tasks, and nothing's highlighted. In fact, let me just show you here. Critical project itself is all critical. Very few tasks are marked as critical. Oh, there's one. This sub-project is marked as critical. It's the only thing that's sort of driving this date out. So, well, okay. If I go back here and look at my options, where did we say that was? Under schedule. Inserted projects are calculated summary tasks. I'm going to turn that off. Now I see these tasks being marked as well. Right? I can see that that dependency chain has changed. And I can do analysis. So I can do analysis either way, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish with my analysis. So very key to understand that option exists, and that you can toggle it. That option is specific to the project. So for every master project you look at, you should be setting that option as appropriate to how you want to be doing your analysis. All right, let's go back to the deck. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to talk a bit about some considerations that are specific to Project Online or Project Server. From here on in, I'm just going to say Project Online. Project Server for these items is identical. So specifically, we're going to talk about workspaces, SharePoint workspaces or project sites, using lists and library rollup information and maybe possibilities to use different templates. We'll talk about enterprise project types, including things like workflow and schedule templates. Talk about some other possible uses for master projects, some caveats with server level reporting. And if I have time, I'll briefly bring up a slide about how to remove a sub-project from a master project, not as simple as deleting. So, as you recall, when we created our master and sub-project, we created the sub-projects as sub-sites to the master project's project site. So we essentially create that hierarchy. And so now people, your SharePoint power users, can do very interesting things with this. They can roll up data from all those subsites to the master project site. So for example, I could have a web part on my master project that shows me recently edited documents from the sub-projects, or maybe open issues labeled high priority from all the sub-projects, and get them all, pardon me, get them all consolidated on that one master project project site. Enterprise project types. You're familiar with in Project Online, when you select a new project, you're given potentially a list of values, a list of enterprise project types you can select from. Each enterprise project type can have a different schedule template, can have a different project site template, can have a different workflow. So this is very important for a project management office. If you are going to support master projects will probably have different schedule templates. They might have different project site templates, and they definitely might have a different workflow process. So let's start from the bottom up. Workflow. Perhaps you have a gating process by which project ideas are vetted, prioritized, selected, budgets assigned. If each sub-project is going through this process, and the master project is really just a consolidation and reporting feature to allow you to manage those as sort of one, it doesn't need to go through the same vetting process. It perhaps doesn't even need a workflow. Conversely, in your organization, it might be the other way around. Maybe it's the master project, the program that goes through all the vetting, but then the sub-projects can be created without going through a complex workflow, or maybe the workflow is very, very simple to allow that interconnectivity. It's something you'll need to plan out and build appropriately. The different project site templates depends on how you're running your master projects. If your master projects have similarly issues and risks, and you want to track them at the master project level, then maybe you can use the same template, but maybe you want to tweak your master project SharePoint template to include some more roll-up information or have a different look and feel so people recognize that it's a program and not just a sub-project. And again, the schedule templates. This is something obviously where your sub-projects are probably going through your standard work breakdown structure, but your master project might be very light in that regard, might only have some tasks in there related to project management. Most of the work will be sort of maybe custom milestone specific to the program, or work specific to the program again, and not something easily part of a template. So these are all things to consider in the design of adding master projects to a Project Online environment. So what are some other uses of master projects? One thing that's not very well known is there's something called the temporary master project. And if I go into the PWA Project Center and highlight a set of projects and open these projects in Project Professional, Project Professional will create a temporary master project, a consolidated master project with the projects I just selected as my sub-projects. And I can do all the analysis I talked about before in terms of looking at resourcing or budgets or critical path, or maybe doing some what-if scenarios on how the cross-project dependencies will affect each other. What if this task takes twice as long as planned? How will that affect the other projects? I can sort of do that with a temporary master project. As long as when I close, I don't save anything back, I haven't made any changes for my what-if analysis. Or maybe I am the project manager of one of those or all of those projects. I open it up. I can make changes to my projects, and I can, when I choose to save, not save the temporary master project, but I can save the 3 sub-projects I was just modifying. So this is one use. Even if your organization doesn't support saving master projects to your server, you can still use the functionality that's available to you without saving those master projects. One thing we did do for a client was they had people that wanted to do this work using master projects, but they found it frustrating to have to constantly go and select the projects they wanted to create the sub-project, to create the temporary master project. So what we did is we created the master project for them with those sub-projects that they wanted, saved them out to the draft portion of Project Online, but didn't publish them. They had Microsoft Project Professional. They could open up that saved master project. They didn't have rights to modify them, to save any project, to publish any project, but they could open it up, get the most recent copies of the projects in their program, and they could do the analysis work. They could see how things were going on their sub projects. So you can sort of have these things out there, but not actually published to the server. Now, why might you want to avoid publishing master projects to the server? Well, because they can have an impact to server level reporting. Be very careful when you start putting master projects in your server, because any reports that you've generated that work particularly across multiple projects can inadvertently double count things, right? If you have, let's say, one of the report packs that's available online, and you start looking at, oh, what's the value of my portfolio? What are the budgets of my portfolio? It may very well include the sub project in its report, as well as the master project in its report, and double count that sub project's budget. This is something, before you introduce master projects, you should go and review the set of reports and connections you have with other systems to make sure that they support the design that you're implementing. This is not an insurmountable hill. It just takes, you just be aware that it's there and address the reports before you start saving master projects or publishing master projects into your online environment. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier, make sure you use project level custom fields to distinguish and organize your programs, because the system easily shows you which projects are master projects and which projects are sub projects, but it doesn't draw the lines between them for you. It doesn't connect them. An easy way to do this in Project Center is to use a custom field, and that will, then you can group on that custom field or center. On the ribbon, there is a toggle that can either show or hide sub-projects right here. By default, the first time you use PWA, this toggle is off. So a lot of people will be like, what happened to my project? It was there, and then someone added it to a master project, and now my project isn't visible anymore. It's because this checkbox isn't selected. Once the user goes and selects that checkbox, it's part of that browser's memory, if you will. It will remember it the next time they come back to the Project Center from in that browser. So it's usually a one-time thing for most of your users to be aware that checkbox is there. And then finally, removing a sub-project. I'll just briefly mention, don't just delete it. Don't just delete the sub-project. Open up the master, select the sub-project, unlink it, delete the subtask, and then save and publish the master project. Then you can delete the sub-project if you wish, or just have it separate. If you just delete the sub-project, that doesn't actually break the link. The master project still thinks it's a master. If you don't follow these steps, it doesn't break the connection the way you'd like. All right, I see I'm almost out of time, so I'll say call to action here. Try creating a temporary master project. No harm in doing it, as long as you don't save things back to the server. You can check out how they work. If you're going to do this in your on environment, plan it out, hopefully with someone that's done it before, like a Microsoft partner that specializes in Project Server, Project Online. Remember, always be careful with your baselines. I hope you are all are baselining. And when you're working with cross-project dependencies, work as a team to avoid circular references. All right. I now would like to take some questions with the last 5 minutes I have here.
All right, God, that was very informative. A lot more about most master projects than I ever wanted to know. I'm sure
I had to cut content.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like I said, it is one of the contentious topics. It's a useful feature, but requires a lot of care to make it work. So
very true. It's not something to take lightly.
Exactly. So let me see if I have any questions. Okay, so Jeff Donsky is asking, could you clarify how project type indicates if it's a master project?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Jeff. If I go to, here we go. We'll go to the Project Center here. Here we are in the Project Center. And here's the project type field. This is an out-of-the-box field. You can see that my master project shows up literally as labeled master project, and the 5 projects that I inserted now show up here as sub-project. If let's just go pick a view that, oops, I have to pick that first. If I pick a view that includes all projects, I hope it includes that field. I'm not sure it does. Anyway, if I picked, oh, there it is. So most projects just show up as project, and here you can see sub-project, and somewhere down on the list is my master project as well. So that's how the project type field works. But again, no automatic linking. That's why it's important to create that that custom field to allow you to identify them.
Great. And John Savage is actually wondering how this would work between project server versus project professional, the whole master project concept.
So although my demo is specifically, you might have noticed I was using files. The whole thing that the whole master project and sub project scenario I had created, I have here as well in Project Online. It would work similarly in Project Server. So for example, here I can click on Extreme Training. Again, this is in Project Online. It's going to go into that particular project. I can look at its schedule. Again, this is in the browser. I'm going to see here's those tasks, those sub projects. I can expand on that sub project and see the tasks within that sub project. If I were to edit it in Project Professional, the master project from the server, it would open up. It would look very similar to what I was just showing you in the file-based scenario.
Yep. And John says, yes, you already actually answered his question later in the.
I like being efficient. There you go.
Okay, so you're getting a lot of excellent job comments. And one comment about, okay, Raj is saying they have experienced corruption with master sub projects using Project Online. Mm-hmm. And he agrees that with us that we need to use it with a lot of care.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely report that to Microsoft. So many of my customers say, oh, there's an error, but then they don't do anything about it. This is the information that Microsoft can do something about if you report it to them. So when you hit issues like this, report them to Microsoft. They are responsive. It might take some time. Things are complex. They can be busy. You can be busy, but eventually it will get resolved. And that just makes the product better for you, and in the process, better for everyone else as well. So I don't specifically know what the cause of the corruption. It could be patch level or version or anything like that. But like maybe it's already resolved. But if it is still happening and you are on the most recent patch, report it to Microsoft.
Fantastic. So we are at 2-minute mark. So at this point, I think we need to move on to the next session. So so thank you, God, very much for an excellent presentation. I think people loved it. And for everybody asking if they'll be available afterwards, yes, all these are being recorded. So we'll let everybody know once we make it available for on-demand viewing.
And if you're looking for just the deck, you can contact me through the information I have, and I can, or any other questions I can respond offline as well.
Definitely, and we'll also make it available under session resources once the event is completed.
Fabulous.
All right, great, God, thank you.
You're very welcome.